Today we're going to talk all about GitHub Actions. It's going to be an introductory talk, so how to get started with GitHub Actions, how developers are using GitHub Actions, why should you care about GitHub Actions, and all that jazz. But first, who am I? So I am Kedasha, and I work at GitHub as a developer advocate, and I've worked as a software engineer for about 2.5 years in the fintech space. Realize coding is fun, but what else is there? I love people, I love talking, and I love explaining technologies to others. I am a technical content creator, so you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, GitHub, LinkedIn, and now Mastodon is a thing. So experimenting there. And you can also find me on all of GitHub's social media platforms. I have this running series called no, that's the name of this talk. I have a running series called GitHub Tips and Tricks, where I show you unknown little features of GitHub and how to use it in little bite-sized pieces of content. So I'm also very addicted to TikTok. Anyone else here loves TikTok? Those little funny videos get me all the time. I can just be sitting on the couch, 2 hours go by, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, Kedasha, you're at work. I'm kidding. That's a joke, Martin. I am kidding. But that's enough about me. So I would like to know, by a show of hands, how many of you are familiar with GitHub Actions? Oh, sweet. That's a really good amount. So if you've used GitHub Actions, you know how simple it is to get started with using them. At GitHub, we really try to make things simple and not easy, but relatively seamless for developers of all experience levels to get started with. So you'll notice that they're simple to implement and they are powerful in their simplicity. So today, we're going to cover what are GitHub Actions, how to use GitHub Actions, how developers are using GitHub Actions in the wild, upcoming features of the Actions platform, and if there is time, we will try to send a text message using GitHub Actions. It worked last night. Let's hope it works this morning. So, what are GitHub Actions? So, GitHub Actions is an all-in-one CI/CD tool that automates your build, tests, and deployment pipelines right where your code lives. So, essentially, GitHub Actions allows you to automate, customize, and execute your software development workflows inside your repository, which is great. You don't have to go to another platform to try to figure out where is the button again. The button is right there next to your code. Actions are also a lot more than CI/CD, where you can automate anything that can be triggered by a GitHub event or even an external event using the webhooks that we have on GitHub. So a GitHub event is something like opening a PR, opening a new issue, adding a comment to an issue. Those are all GitHub events that can trigger GitHub Actions. So why are GitHub Actions useful? For me, there are two primary reasons why you'd want to consider adding GitHub Actions to your repository. You can automate repeated tasks seamlessly, and they are flexible, scalable, and powerful without compromising stability or performance. So if you are a everyday developer and you just have some projects on the side, but you want to automate, let's say your deployment pipeline, your testing pipeline, GitHub Actions is going to be free for you depending on what your repository looks like, and you can use it. If you are an enterprise client, you can use GitHub Actions because it will work with your company because it's scalable and it just grows with you. Some of the main features of GitHub Actions that's exciting to me is that it is a simple YAML-based configuration. So you just need to know a little bit of YAML and to tolerate the errors that always come up in the editor and fix them, but it's simple YAML-based configuration files, and you can automate anything by using scripts or bashes or even other actions. GitHub Actions are event-driven, and so they're triggered by any GitHub event in your repository. We have GitHub-hosted runners, and you can also do self-hosted runners. With GitHub-hosted runners, they work with Ubuntu, Windows, macOS, and you don't need to set up anything for yourself. If you would like to set up your own infrastructure, you do have the option to host your own machine to run workflows for enhanced control, security, or compliance. GitHub Actions also has a built-in secret store where you can store your environment variables or sensitive information. We also have configuration variables where you can store non-sensitive data for your workflows. We have parallel and conditional execution where you can run multiple jobs concurrently or specify conditions to control the flow of the workflow based on the job outcome or the criteria that you're looking for. We also have a GitHub marketplace with over 17,900 pre-built actions for you to use. So if you want to get started or if you want to add a new action, you can go to the marketplace, search up whatever you're looking for, and something will probably pop up. If it's not there, you can always build your own custom action to get your workflow going. Reusable workflows are also a thing. So if you have one workflow, you can apply it across multiple repos in your org, and there are live logs and a lot of visualization for you to use. So essentially, it's pretty awesome. So all that is great, Kay, but what do you need to know to use them? You need to know that actions are hosted in your repository in the .github/workflows folder. It's a YAML-based syntax, they're event-driven, and they support any language. The GitHub Action Platform will recommend actions for you to use based on the languages and the frameworks that's within your repository. And how do they work? So actions are made up of a few components. We have workflows, events, jobs, steps, runners, and other actions. So you can have actions within a workflow to be ran on GitHub Action. That's a lot of action. So workflows are configurable automated processes that's made up of one or more jobs. You must create a YAML file to define your workflow configuration within your repository. Workflows are made up of events, jobs, steps, and actions. Events trigger workflows, and workflows contains jobs. Jobs can have multiple steps, and steps are the commands or actions that you want to be executed. And that is the entirety of a GitHub action. A GitHub action depends on the workflow. Without the workflow, there is no execution because the runner will have nothing to execute, right? So a workflow is pretty much the action that you want to be executed and written in YAML. A workflow is also made up of events, and an event is an activity that trigger a workflow. For example, like I was saying earlier, a pull request or pushing a commit to GitHub are both considered GitHub events that can trigger an action. So is leaving a comment on a repository. Events can be scheduled for whenever you need them. They can be automatically ran. I love the word automatically. Or they can be scheduled at a specific time on a specific day. For example, my team, instead of having stand-ups, we have something called Top 5, where every week, each member of the team, in an issue, we list the top 5 things we're committed to complete for the week. So we have a GitHub action that automatically opens up that issue for us, tags us in the issue so we can remember to write down our top 5 so our manager knows what we're working on. And then at the end of the week, we also have an action that automatically opens up a GitHub discussion for us to update our managers on what did we accomplish this week, what did we post, where did we go, where did we talk, what are the metrics, and so on and so forth. So that's how we kind of use GitHub events, and those are scheduled for specific days. And so that's kind of how we use actions on our team a little bit. Runners are servers or workflows that runners are a server that runs workflow jobs when they're triggered. So each runner can run a single job at any given time. GitHub provides Ubuntu, Windows, macOS runners to run your workflows. Each workflow can be executed in a fresh, newly provisioned virtual environment. GitHub also offers large runners, which are available in larger configurations. And if you need a different operating system or require a specific hardware configuration, you can host your own runners. Jobs are a list of steps that's within a workflow that's executed on the same runner. A step can be a shell script to be executed, or it can be an action to be ran, and you'd get these actions from the marketplace. You can define multiple jobs in a single workflow, and each job can have multiple steps. Steps are executed in order and are dependent on each other. Since each step is executed on the same runner, you can share data from one step to another. For example, you can have a step that builds your application followed by a step that tests the application that was previously built. Actions within a workflow are custom application from the marketplace that performs complex but frequently repeated and needed tasks. The important thing to remember about actions within your workflow is that you can use these actions to help reduce the amount of repetitive code that you write. An action can pull your GitHub repository from GitHub. You can set up a tool chain for your build environment, or you can set up the authentication to your cloud provider. GitHub Actions are multifaceted, and there are a lot of them available for you. Here's an example of a sample Hello World workflow. So you see we have the name of the workflow, and that's going to show up in the GitHub Actions tab on the GitHub UI. We have the on push, which is the event trigger for that action, and then we have a single job within that action. And this job is going to be ran on an Ubuntu machine or Ubuntu runner, and the step is to say hello world, and then it's going to run echo hello world. And then this is what it will look like in the GitHub UI. So as you can see here, if you just squint your eyes, you see the little hello world that was executed. So let's get into some demos. That's enough talking, Kedasha. So I'm going to be using this repository here to show you two simple examples of a CI and a CD processes using GitHub Actions. So the demos are based on this GitHub Actions Codespaces playground. And if you go to the link on the screen, GHIO/actions-demo, you can follow along or you can start it for later. And when you get to the repository, you're going to select this code button. Then select Create Codespaces on Main to open up a cloud IDE. So if the internet is going to work with me today, I would love to show you how to use Codespaces, which is a cloud development environment for you to use. So instead of using your local VS Code, you can code in the cloud. And you can do a lot with Codespaces. Everything you can do in VS Code locally on your machine, you can do in a Codespace. Great. So once you open this up, this is what it's going to look like, and you can follow along to publish the repository and then go to the next step and go through the walkthrough. But today, I really want you to see this CI workflow. So here we have a simple CI workflow that is going to check your code for any linting errors when the code is pushed or a PR is submitted to the main branch specifically. So again, we have the workflow name, we have the trigger. So there are two triggers in this instance, and this is how you would write multiple triggers for your action if that's what you would like to do. We have the runner. So the runner job is called runLint, and it's going to be using a standard 2-core Ubuntu VM hosted by GitHub. We have a multi-step job. The first step is to check out the code from GitHub, and the second step is to lint the code. So let's go to the editor, make a simple change. Also, if you go to this link, you can find the repository, and then we're going to go to the linter.yaml file. Great. So this is the action I just showed you. Probably need to, is that better? I think that's better. Right, so this is actually we're going to show you. And so to trigger this action, we need to make a simple change. So I'm just going to go here and make a simple change to the content. Always have to have that dancing emoji. So let's go here. Let's hit sync changes. Okay, and so that was pushed to the main branch. So if we go to actions, we can see the workflow starting to run. And here's what a failed action look like, a failed workflow. But here is the testing actions linting code base. And so this is what you would see on the action platform whenever you go to take a look at how your actions is going and the progress of the action. You can click in here to see what it's doing. And so these are the steps that we set up. So it's going to set up the job, it's going to check out the code, then it's going to lint the code base. So right here, it's grabbing the super linter action from the marketplace that we're going to be needing for the lint code base step. Cool, and it should be done soon. So while we wait for that, this repository is a demo playground for you to play with. If you've never used actions before, it's a great way to get to learn it because there is that walkthrough workflow that I showed you earlier. And it has multiple like demo actions for you to play with. Okay, let's make that run. And then, okay, there we go. There we go. So here we have, it's linted the code base and there is an error. Let's see what it says. So it says, special characters must be escaped. Oh, this one. Where is it? Thank you. Always have more declarative commit messages. Never just say update. That's what happens when you do a live demo. I was like, I'm not gonna record it. I'm gonna do it live, Give it a try. Don't be scared. And so it's gonna go through the same process again. So I can show you the marketplace. We're gonna take a look at it later while that's going. So this is the GitHub marketplace. We can select actions because we also have apps within this marketplace. And then we can either search for an action or look at each category. Since we're looking at a CI, you can see here that we have a lot of starter workflows for you to use to get your CI going on GitHub. So it's grabbing that super linter actions again. Then it's going to check out the code, then it's going to link the code base, and then it's going to say successful. And then we're going to do the same thing for this one. Okay, so let's let that run and then I'll show you later. The next example I have for you is this continuous deployment workflow that builds and deploys a static site to GitHub pages when the code is pushed to a production branch. So the event can also be specified by a branch in your repo for you to push from. So you can have production, staging, playing environments that will run the workflows. So we have a name, the trigger, then we're setting some permission so that we can deploy to GitHub pages. We're only allowing one concurrent deployment, and then we have a single job that has multiple steps. Great. So this was successful, and so this is what success looks like on the Actions platform. All files entered successfully with no errors detected. Thank you for that ampersand thing. When I'm presenting, I can't think or see. And there we go. So that was successfully ran. So now let's create a new branch from Codespaces. So I don't know if you know about this tip, but if you go to any GitHub repository and you hit the period key on your keyboard, it will open up a editor. Now that editor is different from GitHub Codespaces. So that editor is a simple editor for you to just make a quick little change to like a README or like a CSS file and push it to GitHub. If you want to do more robust work, like what you would actually do on your machine, you can use Codespaces. And as you can see, I just opened up a terminal just like I would in VS Code. So let's let's create a branch called production. And then let's make another simple change so we can trigger this workflow. My journey began in high school. That is not true. My coding journey began in 2019 when I discovered coding on Instagram. So let's push that. Again, have more declarative commit messages. Then we can do that. And now it's going to run our CD workflow. This one. Deploy static content to pages. So because right here you can see it's from the production branch, which is what we specified in the workflow. And it's already done. So here we can go directly to the link. And we can see it right there. So this is how easy it is to enable a deployment workflow in your code base right where your code lives. No need to go elsewhere to figure out where the buttons are. The buttons are right here for you to see. And that's it for that one. So let's talk about how developers are using GitHub Actions to boost their productivity. So one of the main ways devs use GitHub Actions to boost productivity, and so boost productivity just means to get started faster, to speed it along, not take too long to like do the setup for actions, is by using the marketplace. So as I said earlier, we have over 17,900 pre-built actions for you to get started with across multiple categories. You can publish your own actions to the marketplace, or you can use one of the ones that we have in the marketplace that makes it a lot easier for you to use. We have a lot of starter workflows. So earlier I mentioned that GitHub recommends workflows based on the languages and the frameworks that you use in your repository. So I have a simple app here called Meal Metrics. I was working with OpenAI API key. I still haven't finished it yet. Some developers build so fast, not me. It takes me a long time. So I have this simple node-based application. And so GitHub, when I go to the GitHub Actions tab, it's saying, oh, here are some recommended actions that we would like you to use or that you can use on your repository. They say I can publish my Node.js package to GitHub Packages. I can deploy it to Azure using, this workflow that's already built for me. And the great things about these simple workflows or these starter workflows is that they are customizable. So you don't have to accept the code as is. You can finagle it and wiggle it to your own liking and your own organization needs. Oh, get on my mouse. Okay, we also have some workflows for release management, and this is how a lot of developers use actions as well. We have the GitHub Actions release action, we have the rollback release action, we have release drafter, so you can draft your releases based on what you're pushing to your repositories. That can be automatically done for you. We have workflows for third-party integrations. So like if you're using Slack or Teams, there's an action for that. You can get notifications sent to you for whatever you would like to configure it to your liking. We have an action to integrate GitHub with Asana. That would be good as well. We have actions for project management. We have an invite-based comment. So if you leave a specific comment on a repository, you can be invited to the repository or an organization. There's an action for that. We have a close issue based on a label. So if a label is labeled a certain, if if a repository or an issue is labeled a certain way, GitHub Actions can automatically sense that event and close that issue for you. Close stale issues. My team uses this one a lot. So we have a lot of issues. And so in order to manage those issues, we use the close stale issues actions to go to our issues, look at it to see how long it's been since there's been an update. Then it will add the stale label to that to the issue. Leave a comment that says, "Hey, is this mic on?" A really funny comment. So then that would trigger us to go into that issue and either remove the stale label or leave it and add a comment that says, "This is fine, leave it alone. I'm still working on it." Or it will, after a certain amount of time, close that issue for us, which is great. We have workflows for deployments. So we can deploy to Firebase hosting, AWS Lambda deploy, or publish, NPM publish. And there are a lot more actions in the marketplace for deployments and even project management. We have workflows for security. So here we see the Docker vulnerability scanner. You can create your own bill of materials if that's to your liking. We also have a GitHub Actions to authorize commit signing. So whatever your needs, there's an action for that. I promise. I saw this one while I was creating this presentation. It's called Go to Sleep. And I would like to say this one is going to be for the 10x engineers. You know, those engineers on your team that work until it's like 1, 2 a.m. So you can add an action to your repository that will sense the time that they're pushing code. So I think it's like either you're pushing, creating a pull request, a review, adding a comment. Any of those events can trigger this action, and then it will leave a little funny comment that says, "Oh dear, it's very late where you are. We appreciate your hard work, but maybe you should go to bed." But you can change a comment to be whatever you want. I thought this was pretty funny. And what do you think? Do you think it's funny? Okay, cool. Yeah, so there's an action for that. Okay, so recent launches and upcoming features to GitHub Actions. So we recently launched the GitHub Actions importer that helps you plan and automate your migration to the GitHub Actions platform from Azure DevOps, GitLab, CircleCI, Travis CI, or Jenkins. At least 80% of your existing workflow can be converted automatically using the Actions importer. The Actions importer uses a phased approach to simplify your migration process. The first step is to plan a roadmap for your migration. Then we test the converted workflows to ensure that it functions the same. And then we migrate your workflow to GitHub Actions with a pull request and validated workflows. Human review is required, and this is a new, I think it's a CLI tool. So it's a new tool. So definitely if you use it, please go to our community and leave us feedback so we can improve it. But it will definitely make your migration a lot easier and smoother. We also just launched the VS Code extension, the GitHub Actions VS Code extension. that provides supports for writing, editing, and managing your workflows in your IDE. You can manage the workflow runs. There is integrated documentation, and you can track your CI builds and deployment using this extension. GitHub Actions is also now on mobile. So you can check your workflow summaries, jobs, and logs. You can get push notifications when a workflow is complete, and you can cancel and trigger workflows right from your phone. This was one of the most requested features for GitHub Actions, and so we're so excited that we launched this in January in public beta. And so with Actions on mobile, we've specifically focused on interactions with pull requests because that's where Actions are mostly used. But more features are going to be coming. And even more releases. Recently, we launched configuration variables, we launched required workflows, and we improved the navigation pane for Actions, and we also launched larger macOS runners. So next week, we're launching the custom deployment protection rules, where you can provide your own rules to control your deployment workflows. So currently, developers can only use the inbuilt environment protection rules to require manual approval, delay a job, or restrict the environment to certain branches. We're partnering with companies like ServiceNow, Datadog, Azure Monitor, and many other third-party services to help you publish protection rules for some of the most popular monitoring services. And so this should be launched next week. Keep losing my mouse. And there's even more to come. If you'd like to see what we're up to, you can always go to our public roadmap to see what's on the agenda. We have action performance metrics on our radars, a seamless management of GitHub hosted and self-hosted runners. We want to create a dashboard view for deployments across environments, and we're also working on macOS runners for Apple Silicon. So, since we do have some time, I would like for us to send a text message with GitHub Actions. Now, like I said earlier, this worked last night. Let's see if it works this morning. So we're going to be using the Twilio SMS action to get this done. And we'll be adding a text message to an existing workflow. So I'm going to use the deploy pages workflow to trigger this event. And then we're going to go to our editor and add the SMS workflow to CD file that we had earlier. Yep, just that one. And so this is the demo, and these are the steps that we're going to use. So if you'd like to do this from home, no problem. You need to sign up for a Twilio account. Then you need to get a free Twilio phone number, get your API secrets and your API key, save those secrets to GitHub, then add the SMS workflow, this one that's here on the screen, to an existing workflow, push the go to GitHub, and then wait for a text message. So would anyone like to give me their phone number for me to text? If not, I can use my phone. I have it right here. Okay, cool. So let's go here and add your phone number as a secret, so nobody has it. It's gonna ask me for validation. Hold on. Let me delete this. I'm just updating the variables. Give me one moment. It's like, confirm you want to delete this. Yes, I want to delete it. Thank you. Okay. So my phone number, and what's your phone number? What's the area code? Is it US? US code, I mean. 302 373 0938. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have our phone number. Now, let's go to the code. I think I closed the code space. Let's reopen the code space. Let's go to, oh, I'm not sharing my screen, am I? My bad. All right, go here. Grab this code from Twilio. All right, there we go. And I'm just gonna add it to the end of this file. It's a YAML. I don't like to paste in YAML, but here we go. Paste. Okay, there we go. So I just grabbed this code from the Twilio action here. And instead of writing the actual phone numbers, I stored them as a secret on the GitHub platform. So if you go to settings, scroll down to secrets and variables and select actions. That's where you would add your repository secrets. And so this is where you'd even store your secrets for your workflows. And these are encrypted, so you can't see the value. But if you don't need the value encrypted, you can also always use variables, configuration variables. So now that we have that in the workflow, the message I want to send is your deployment is successful. And so our good friend here should receive that text message once the workflow is complete. Okay, I should be able to just push this. I don't know if I have to do an update or anything, but let's just change a word just in case. All right, so that's done. Let's commit the code. Sync changes to push. Okay, that should be done, I think. Let's go here, and here we go. It's already done. That was fast. Did you get a text message? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. My bad. I was like, it broke. Let's see. The number is unverified. Oh. Ew. Let me update this. Let me actually do it over here. Let me update the phone number and try again. All right, I need to add your phone number to my Twilio account and verify it. Right. I'm just gonna use my number. So I'm gonna update the variables, or just one variable actually. Edit +1 1346069. Update secret. Okay, that's updated. Let's go back to the actions tab. Go here, and then let's just, okay, just rerun it. There we go. Rerun failed jobs. let's see. I put my phone, so hopefully I get a text message. I don't know. Oh, I also discovered that you can order a pizza with GitHub Action. um, surprisingly. And here is the text message. Your deployment is successful. You can't see it, but I promise it's there. For verification, please verify. So if that's something you would like to add in your repositories, like if you want to know, only on your work phone though. It's important to rest. But if you wanted to send a text message to a work phone that says, "Hey, the deployment is finished, it's successful," you say, "Yay!" A little celebration, and you can go around your merry way. And so that is GitHub Actions. La 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 la. Where where are my slides? Oh, here they are. See. Wait, where are they? Please help. Oh, there we go. And so that's sending a text message with GitHub Actions. I thought that was pretty cool. So to recap what we just went through, I just threw a lot of words at you, but we went over how to get started with GitHub Actions, what they are, how developers use them, upcoming features, and we just sent a text message with GitHub Actions. And so what I really want you to take away from this talk today is that GitHub Actions is an easy and simple, seamless way to automate anything from your repositories. We have starter workflows for you to get going, and if you need any support, we do have a GitHub community and for you to access. And if you have questions, we're always there to help. Thank you.